Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 20 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 2, the cow, from verses 154 all the way to 163. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. And do not say about those who are killed in the way of God, they are dead. In fact, they are alive, but you do not perceive. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين. And we will test you with something of fear, hunger, and the loss of wealth, souls, and fruits. So give good news to those who are patient. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إن لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Whom when a misfortune strikes them, they say, Indeed we belong to God, and indeed to Him we will return. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Those are the ones upon whom are litanies from their Lord in mercy, and they are those who are the guided. إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت واعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم. Indeed, Safa and Marwa are among the rituals of God. So whoever makes a pilgrimage to the house or pays a visit, there is no blame on him to walk around them both. And whoever volunteers well, then indeed God is grateful and omniscient. إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون. Indeed, those who conceal what we have revealed of the proofs and the guidance, after that which we have made clear in the book to the people, those are the ones whom God has cursed, and they are cursed by the cursors. إلا الذين تابوا وأصلحوا وبينوا فأولئك أتوب عليهم وأنا التواب الرحيم. Except those who repent, reform, and make it known, then those are the ones whom I will forgive, for I am compassionate, the merciful. إن الذين كفروا وماتوا وهم كفار أولئك عليهم لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين. Indeed, those who disbelieve and die while they are disbelievers, those are the ones upon whom is the curse of God, the angels, and the people altogether. خالدين فيها لا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينظرون. Eternally therein, the punishment will not be lightened for them, nor will they be respited. وإلهكم إله واحد لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم. And your deity is one God. There is no God or deity except Him, the gracious, the merciful. صدق الله العظيم. God, the great, said the truth. Now, these verses are continuing from a verse that was said in the page before it. The verses start up by continuing by a verse that was said before, where God is saying to us, if we're believers, that we should seek help through patience and prayer or litany, and God is with those that are patient. And then God is also giving us a command here: do not call or to not label those that have died in battle or in the way of God as people who are dead. They are killed. They have tasted death, but they have not died. They are very much well alive, and God is increasing them so that they have an amazing day of judgment when they are presented to God, because they gave the ultimate sacrifice. You can sacrifice your money. You can sacrifice your comfort. You can sacrifice your country, your house. You can sacrifice many things in the world. But the ultimate sacrifice is yourself. Because as soon as you go on that battlefield and you taste death, at that point you can't really build anymore on earth for your hereafter. So God, as a reward, as a way to reward you, He keeps increasing your reward while the world is running. So you have never died really, even though you tasted death. This is something that's expressed actually in a lot of cultures. Anywhere you go, when somebody is dead on a battlefield, dying, fighting for his country or fighting for his people, they're usually called heroes. So if you're dying not for your country and not for your people, but rather for the religion of God while defending your country and defending your people and defending the truth, you're definitely a hero at this point because you did the ultimate sacrifice. Now, God is clearly telling you the programming of the world in the next stage. He's saying that we're going to get tested. We're going to get tested with some fear, with some hunger, and we're going to lose some wealth, some people, and some fruits. These are the things that happen in the world around us often. You know, it's easy to find yourself in a position where you're scared of what the outcome is. So you start worrying yourself and you get into a mode where you're hurting yourself because your thoughts is like, what's going to happen? I'm in so much trouble, or I need to escape from this, or what's going to go on, and you start to actually lack the trust in God at that point, that whatever is going to happen is technically what's decreed upon you to happen, either because of your action or the actions of someone else. If you're in a state of being oppressed, then God is going to make it right. So is there really a reason to be fearful or worryful in that moment? And you are going to feel the fear. You are going to feel the test. The test is programmed to do that. But it's all about your mentality in that point. And it's the same thing with hunger, because you have to feel hungry so that you could really be thankful at certain times. And you losing your wealth, the people that you love, and fruits at certain points, or the wealth that's being built around you, this is everyday part of life for everybody. But God is telling us in those moments, this is when you really have to show patience. You've been learning your religion. In these moments, this is when you're actually showing your religion that you have been practicing. There's so many situations where it was a pretty bad test. Like misfortune actually struck me and sometimes the people that are around me. And I don't understand why people don't apply this verse when it's clear that anything, whether it's a small issue or a really big issue, somebody stole your car or your pen got broken and you need to write something. This is the verse that you really need to say. In certain religious understandings, I don't want to quote. Yes, so with Sunnis and Shias, they usually only say this verse, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, when a death happens. This is the only time when they invoke this verse, but when God is saying that it's when misfortune strikes you. Because when you do say that verse, you are reminded that this world is temporary. We're going back to God. So whatever problems we're going through now, it shouldn't affect us to a level where we're completely broken down or completely depressed. We find the guidance by remembering that we're coming back to God. This is just a short time. It's very short-lived, and then we're going to go live forever. But when you recognize that, when you say we are for God and to Him we are going to return, at that point God is praying on you and God is showing you mercy. So you see your problem being fixed in ways that you never have like even wondered about it. From a personal story, and this is when I say this verses a lot, and I have many stories when this specific verse helped me. But there's a time when we were striving, me and a few friends, we were striving in the name of God. And we got to a point where it's late at night. There's mosquitoes everywhere. It's very difficult to sleep outside when there's mosquitoes, when you don't have mosquito repellent. And we were extremely tired. We just needed a spot to sit and sleep for a few hours. And I remember like at this point, it felt like this is misfortune because we're not finding a place that's indoors for us to sleep. And I just said it. I said it. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To God, we belong to God, and to Him we return. Not even a few seconds later, like almost immediately after I said the thing, I just noticed a little frog in front of me, bounce in a certain direction. So I looked at that direction and I saw a building, which technically was a police station. But there wasn't there at the time because it was late at night and people don't usually use that area during this time of the year. So me and my friends, we just decided to go sleep in the police station. We technically trespassed and slept in a police station and nobody bothered us. But it was God sending that frog that made me understand that here's an option for you. And there are verses that says that the houses where they're forsaken and there's nobody in it, you're allowed to find a little bit of residence as when you're traveling. So we applied those verses. But what I'm saying is this verse is always there when you're having misfortune. And this verse should be something that comes to your mind often. Someone stole something from you. Somebody is abusing you. Somebody is saying something wrong to you. You've lost your wallet. You've lost something that's important to you. Somebody has died. Somebody is sick. You are sick. You got lost. You are in a problem where you think you have fell into misfortune. Say this verse. Get the mercy from your Lord. Get the blessings and get God's prayer upon you. God praying on you is giving you answers for that are about to come up. This is God's direct intervention in your life. And then God, well, first, because I know where I've read this chapter a few times, God is giving us a prelude to the concepts of the pilgrimage. And God is now talking about the two mountains, Safa wal Marwa. And these are rituals or signs from God, and that we have to show respect, because showing respect to the sign of God is a part of being conscious of God and what God has deemed as blessed and holy. Now, here you could clearly see that God is saying that if you want to walk between or float or walk between these pace between these two mountains, it is something that if you do is good for you. And God is thankful if you do that. So he's grateful. But it's something that you should volunteer to do. So when someone is coming around saying that these are rituals, that you must do it, if you don't do it, your pilgrimage or your visitation to the house is not accepted because this is how God has planned it, well, then you just show them this verse. It is a voluntarily deed for you to do. This is not part of a ritual where that if you don't do it, you're in trouble. But God is clearly saying that if you volunteer and do it, it's good for you and God is grateful. But never put it into a point where it's, if you don't do it, you're failing your religion. And this is something that's very clear here. But now if God is telling you, since you visited the house and you already made the pilgrimage and the two mountains are not really that far apart, for you to walk in between them, is it really going to take too much of your time? So why wouldn't you volunteer and do it anyways? It is a very good feeling. It's a good place to be. I've walked between those mountains often because I feel very, actually Safa is probably one of my favorite mountains in the world. It's just, I can't say much about Marwa. I love Marwa as well. But Safa, there's something it's just the peace and the serenity you get by walking into those two mountains. Now, have you ever seen people who are maybe thinkers or philosophers that they say they like to pace because it helps with their thinking or the thing that they're thinking about? This is something that's evident that you see when you're walking around the sacred house or walking between the mountains. If you really just focus on God and you're thinking about it, you're thinking about God and you're walking between them, you can start to like have these closer feelings about God where nobody's bothering you. Sometimes the environment there is not as good as it should be, is just because people are not showing respect to the Sha'air-Allah, the rituals of God. But it's nevertheless, it's a very peaceful and a very amazing, sincere thing to do while you're walking between those two mountains, and it is voluntarily. Now, God here is giving us a warning. So for people who are concealing what God has been revealing as proofs and guidance, after God has made it clear to you and to others, then you are being cursed by God. And the entities that are created to curse are also cursing you. So you're not going to find much success in life. It feels like anything that you were going to hold or go through, it's slowly going to get destroyed. There's a difference between people who completely disregard God, disbelieve God, want nothing to do with God, and they go through life. It seems like some of them are finding success. Like, how are these people so rich? How are these people making so much progress in their lives, yet they don't care about God? Well, quite simply, they chose the worldly life. This is what they wanted, and if they're doing good, they're going to get whatever they're building in the world, and that's it. They get nothing in the hereafter. But the criminals are those that say that they are people who believe in God, that they're here worshiping God, yet then they sit and make lies about God or hide what God is revealing. Those people are worse than the disbelievers at this point, because they're becoming complete hypocrites, and hypocrites are in a worse position on the day of judgment than the believers. So the reason why you can't hide what God has revealed, because God has picked you with the intellect and the way and the environment that you grew up for you to understand a concept that will help people get into heaven. So we need to set up a way so that our society is more susceptible to finding the path to God and going and finding heaven rather than making a society where the person is more susceptible to go into hell because there's more distractions and more worldly pleasures being presented to them. How many countries have you walked in and there's plasters of all these billboards and things for marketing, or in other countries where it's plastered with a picture of the ruler, the person that's in charge, and yet you rarely see a verse or a reminder of God. How do you think the children will grow up while they're constantly being bombarded with things that are not holy? Now, that society is more susceptible to going into a difficult path than a better path, and I mean the individuals. But if you are helping people find the truth, then you are bringing more people into the pleasure, more people into heaven, and more people into finding a relationship with God, as long as the right ingredients are there. Now, when God is giving us a proof in the Quran, why would you need to hide it? But this is happening often, by the way. A lot of people can understand a verse from the Quran. God is giving them the ability to understand what's being said, but then they choose to just hide it and not present it to the people. This is especially what happens during debates and discussions in regards to theology and what is right and what is wrong. People opt to understand what's being said. They get the guidance, they get the clearance, they get the proof, but then they opt to lie, or they opt to stay quiet because they're thinking that this is how they're going to win the discussion. These are people who are not very aware of the day of judgment. So you are in trouble. God is going to punish you in the world because you're causing not only pain to yourself on the day of judgment, but you're causing pain to other people who might be looking for God, or maybe the thing that you're revealing is going to spark the desire for somebody to go find out what the truth is. We're in a world where there's a bunch of confusion, where this book is not very confusing. It's giving you the mentality and idea to what matters and what doesn't matter. God is actually also, it seems like in certain verses, he's promoting, or he's putting priority on you becoming more pure than having the knowledge and the wisdom. So purifying yourself is more important. But yet people are so confused about the knowledge and what the knowledge is. But well, how do you purify yourself? By being completely honest and fulfilling the words that you understand. Why am I going to be judged on a day of judgment in a negative way when there's a verse that I completely couldn't understand? I did not have the mental capacity for me to grasp what God is saying there. Would I really be punished on stuff like that? I don't believe so. I think God is very merciful. But I will be punished if I found a verse like the verse that's earlier that's saying that God is going to test us with the loss, with misfortunes, of all sorts of misfortunes, and for me to say we are to God and we to him we return. And I understand this concept, but I only say it when death happens. And if someone reminds me of this verse, he goes, oh no, this verse doesn't, I'll say that verse that doesn't apply, despite me knowing the verse very well, then I am in trouble at that point. I am causing a damnation. But God is very extremely merciful. So if I caused the problem and I did my best to try to fix what I did, then God is very he's accepting of repentance. He's merciful, and that's something that we always need to keep in mind. If you stole from somebody, maybe like actively or unconsciously, you caused the problem where you ended up stealing from somebody. If you pay it back, at that point you made your reprimands, and then you felt guilty and you said you're sorry. It's done. That's usually how it works. There's some crimes where obviously there's no way to fix what you did, but other than you begging God for mercy and forgiveness, but then you go try to fix other things where you do have a control over them, because like cheating on your partner is not something that you can really fix at that point. Killing somebody is not something that you can really fix. That's why these are like the big sins. But most other sins, there's a way for you to make things better. You understanding that there was a verse that could have been said in the moment and you choosing to conceal it, you might start feeling bad. This is a favor from God. You might feeling like you're burning inside. So at that point, you just stand up, be like, guys, you know what? There's this verse. It came to mind. This is what I'm perceiving. This is the verse. End of story. And you can see you'll feel better as soon as you do that. Even if people start yelling or you don't know what you're saying or what you're doing, just do your part. Now, those people who are disbelievers, even though I believe the word kafir is more as ungrateful, but when you disbelieve in God, you're ungrateful to God. So yeah, when you clearly see somebody who's ungrateful, who's a disbeliever, who hates even hearing about God, or the conversation or the discussion about theology just completely turns them off. If you are a believer and you see that person, you in your mind, you're looking down at him. You're literally cursing him just by the way that you're looking at him. And when they say stupid things, there's many Islamophobes that you like. I'm pretty sure when I say the word Islamophobe, there's a few icons that you have in your head, but you're always disgusted by them. There's people when I see them, like the first word that comes out of me is saying "Lanatullah alayhim," like God, may God damn them, because they've went to such paths where it's just complete ungratefulness, complete disregard to the the like how grandiose and amazing God is, and how much, yeah, like it's so insulting to see people talk about certain things about God and his messengers, where we curse them, God is cursing them, and also the angels will curse them. But the curse is not even here. This is just them slowly picking up what they're going to hear what people said to them, but on the day of judgment. Because on the day of judgment, literally, the people in hell will be cursing each other. The people in heaven will be cursing them. The angels will be cursing them. And God's curse is already upon them. That the fact that they're forgotten, left in hell, and God is no longer answering anything of what's coming out of them. Isn't that actually scary? That you have no more ability to communicate with God, no more ability to feel God's grace or mercy, no more ability to feel that that God knows your name or God cares about you. To me, that's what true hell is. You completely detached from God. But they chose to be completely detached from God here. God is not creating us to put us in hell. God promised that he's going to fill hell with a lot of humans and devils. It's not because God created them to go to hell. It's just because he put the system and he knew most of the people would rather disconnect. How many people disconnect from their fathers and their mothers when their fathers and their mothers didn't really cause a problem to them? When their fathers and mothers cared for them, but maybe it wasn't the way that they wanted to, so they chose to disconnect. Okay, well, that's ungratefulness, isn't it? There's people that have problems, but then as long as you're always keeping a path or a channel open so that you can come back together, that's where the love is. But with God, you don't want to get disconnected. God doesn't need me. God is amazing. He's free of everybody. Why would I actively want to disconnect with that? So those that are completely disregarding God, that they don't care with God because it's a mentality at this point where it's full of hate, full of contempt, full of ungratefulness, the result is of a dirty mind. You cannot be somebody who is a good, humble, amazing person that people gravitate to and sit and talk negatively and bad about God. There are people who have characteristics in the worldly life which are positive, but you tend to see them, they actually detach from a God in a way where they don't even want to talk about the subject, but they're not insultive. The true criminals are the ones that are insultive, and those people you can clearly see. And they're going to have a different punishment on the day of judgment. It's just because they opted to be enemies rather than just sit on the sidelines. And some people who are sitting on the sidelines, as long as they're not like really, really bad atheists, I really do believe anyone, anywhere can have a chance to find himself in heaven as long as he was actually a positive being. And as long as he was somewhat skeptic of God's existence, as long as he thinks that there might be a God, God knows. I really truly believe that God is very accepting of intercession, because these people are making criminal ideas, but there is the concept of intercession. There's the concept of pardoning. There's the concept of forgiving. There's the concept of mercy. So there's so many ways for God to really show you a way so that you go into heaven. You might end up in heaven with a small, tiny house and just a small plot of land, but that's much better than what's the alternative, isn't it? And I truly believe that these concepts people overlook. They don't want, like for me, even with some people that I dislike, like because of the way they act and how they talk, I still don't want to wish them hell. Like it's not worth for somebody to go to hell over whatever the problem is. Some people deserve hell. Yes, there's definitely people that deserve hell, and those are the criminals. Those are the oppressive, big time criminals that were given a chance and they opted to become oppressive. Those people, I'm okay with them going to hell because they've built it themselves. But your average everyday guy that just he's stuck in this programming and he's skeptical about God because of how much confusion there is, and he's genuinely trying to be a good person, and he is trying to search for the truth, and maybe he could not land on the truth, and maybe he did not understand the message of the Quran. I hope someone intercedes for him, or God is accepting of that intercession. That's what I think intercession comes in play. God ends the verses by saying, your God is one God. There is no deity except him, and that he is the merciful, he is the merciful and the gracious. This is something that's important to keep in mind. Knowing that your God is one, that the system is simple. There isn't many entities dictating to you what the truth or what you need to do or you don't need to do. There is no need for any other books. There is no need for anyone to explain anything to you. God is the one who's explaining to you the book. God is the one who's putting you on a path for a mentality that will save you from all sorts of pain. Someone died in my family. I'm okay, going back to God. My family member went to God before me. That's amazing for him. I'm losing money, I'm losing wealth, and I'm losing what I have now. This is just a test, because after this pain, I'm going to find some ease again, because God promised me ease. There's no point of having to destroy my mentality and my psyche in these moments of worry when it's going to be smooth sailing sooner or later. And I can volunteer in the name of God. And just because I volunteered and everyone else is volunteering does not make it now an obligation. And it does not make me any less of a believer if I opted to go visit the house one time and not walk between the two mountains. So with that said, I really hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. Thank you very much for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings upon you all. And we'll see you again, inshallah.